Chapter 5. Stories. Mum grips my hand and leads me briskly towards our house. I'm alert. My eyes flicker over shadows and my ears tune into every rustle. When we reach the front door, Mum fumbles with the padlock and I keep it steady as she slides in the key. As soon as we're inside, Mum gathers our warm jumpers and throws them onto the bed in a pile. I breathe in the familiar scent of home. I bend down to take off my shoes. "Leave them on until Dad gets home," she says. "Are we going somewhere?" I ask. Mum glances out the window. "I don't know yet." Dad strides in minutes later, wrapped up in layers of woolen coats, and kisses Mum. He hugs me, his long hair falling from under his hat. His cold nose presses against my cheek. I smell the leathery tang of the animals. "Listen to me," says Dad, taking my shoulders. "The whole village is going to be blamed for this. The Wujing will think we're all behind it. No more going off by yourself." I notice the wrinkles on his forehead and around his eyes, and I nod and sit down on the bench at the table. Dad unhooks the rusty teapot hanging above the stove, slides his hand inside and pulls out a bundle of yuan fastened with red string, the same kind the monks bless and give out as bracelets. He snaps the string with a knife before reaching into his pocket and pulling out more notes. He peels back each corner and counts them before dividing the money into 3 piles. "I want you to hold on to this, my little yak," he says, handing me the biggest bundle. "In case anything happens, hide it, keep it safe." I look to Mum. She smiles at me. I stand tall, shoulders back. "You can count on me." I stare Dad straight in the eye so he knows I really mean it. It's the first time he's ever trusted me with something like this. I fold the money in half and hide it in my inside pocket. It's the most money I've ever held. Dad sighs, then draws me and Mum towards him, scooping us up under his arms. The fur from his coat is warm and soft. I lean my head against it and close my eyes. The man on fire glares back at me, surrounded by bright orange and screaming. "What do we do?" whispers Mum. "Carry on like normal," replies Dad, squeezing us before letting go. "Try not to draw attention to ourselves." I nod slowly but stay rooted to the bench, grappling with Dad's words. Dad drags his desk to the window and sits looking out. "Turn off the light," he says. "You should eat something," Mum says to him, breaking up the dried yak's manure and feeding it to the kitchen fire. "In a minute," he says. "I need to write first." By day, Dad works for the local newspaper. By night, he writes leaflets for the secret resistance. Mum lights a butter candle off the fire and places it on his desk. The smoke stings my nostrils. The room flickers, the flames reflecting in the tiny glass windows that keep out the drafts. Shadows dance on the wooden ceiling beams that Mum painted with swirling pictures of clouds, dragons and snow lions. "Eat," says Mum, passing me a plate of mutton momos. My favourite. I dip one in the red chilli sauce and bite into the dough. The juice spills down my fingers. "Will the man be all right?" I ask quietly. "He's in the hospital," says Mum. "Who is he?" "It's Mr. Tenzin," she replies. "The tailor." "Why did he do it?" I ask, making patterns on my plate with the momo and sauce. Mum is silent next to me. He wants change, says Dad from his desk. He wanted to tell the world how bad it is. Enough, says Mum. She pulls another candle out of a drawer and lights it from the fire. This is for him. Throughout dinner, there's nothing to mask my thoughts. I hear every chew of meat and scrape of chopsticks against the plates. Can't you hum? I ask Mum. It's not a night for humming, she replies. I stand and run my fingers over the spines of my favourite books. Well, can you tell me a story? I ask, like you used to. She clears the plates and sits next to me by the fire. Her face is lit up by the flames. Long ago, your grandfather was a nomad, she says. He'd roam the grasslands with his yaks, churning buttermilk and collecting the wild flowers. Back then, the land was filled with spruce trees and colourful prayer flags hung between them, fluttering in the wind. Herds of wild deer grazed the grasses and birds filled the blue skies. Dad reaches for Mum's hand and she smiles. What changed? I ask, twisting my turquoise ring round my finger. Mum passes me a yak's wool blanket and I cuddle up with it. There's never a good time for that story, says Dad. Mum leans forward. One day, the Chinese army invaded and herded the nomads in a way that they would never even do to their own animals. They forced them off the land, they ripped up the ground and dug deep into the earth to mine, scarring the landscape. The deer leapt away, the birds and the butterflies flew off. Mum rearranges the red wool braided into her hair. Maybe that's enough, says Dad. I can't take my eyes off the fire. With every flick, my skin crawls. There's a tap on the door. Dad glances at us. His forehead creases. Mum grabs my hand. There's another tap. Get back, Dad says. He stands, knocking his chair over. It scrapes across the floor. Chapter 6. Secrets. It's me, whispers a voice. Sam. I look to Dad. Relief flashes across his face. Get in here, quick, says Dad, holding the door ajar. What are you thinking, breaking the curfew like that? Did anyone see you? Sam shakes his head, sliding his shoes off. I realise I'm still wearing mine and slip them off too. You shouldn't have risked coming here, says Dad, his voice rising. We talked about it, remember? Shh, says Mum, ushering everyone away from the door. Does your dad know you're here, Sam? asks Mum. He's asleep, Sam shrugs. He won't notice I'm gone. And the soldiers? asks Dad. I've been watching the patrols go past all evening. I know when the breaks are. Sam looks up at my parents. I'm sorry. I just wanted to know if there was any news. Are the soldiers still outside the monastery? I ask. Sam nods. Do you think the soldiers will surround the village too? He asks Dad. They must believe the monastery is involved with the man on fire. Why else would they be there? You're probably right, says Dad. Sam puffs up, proud that Dad agrees with him, and I'm instantly jealous. Ever since Sam and I discovered that Dad was in the secret resistance, we've tried to prove that we should be allowed to join. Recently, it's as if Sam's been getting more things right than me. I think of how Dad gave me the money to look after and relax. I'll make us some tea, Mum offers. Dad tilts his head towards the kitchen. Come and give me a hand, Tash, says Mum. Not What now? I moan. My mind swarms with questions. Tash, says Mum, using her stern voice, so I know there's no arguing with her. I'll just be a second, I say to Sam. I form a fist with my right hand and stick out my little finger and thumb, before mimicking an eagle soaring with it. It's our secret signal, our promise that we'll always tell each other everything. I cross our living space into the kitchen area. Here, I say to Mum, placing the butter churner next to Mum. Not so fast, she says as I turn to go. I let the butter slide off the spoon and drop into the water while she stirs. Dad ushers Sam to the window, their voices lower. I strain my ears, but the cups clink and clank and the butter tea boils. I can't hear what they're saying. Mum stirs slowly. I'll do it, I say, taking it from her and blending the mixture up quickly. Promise me you won't break the curfew like Sam, says Mum. We're lucky to be here, you know. Stay quiet and remember the rules. Mum's said it to me 1,000,000 times before, but there's something in her voice that makes me listen. I promise, I say. When it's ready, I carry the steaming tea to Dad and Sam. Thanks, says Sam, taking his cup. We sit in silence, huddled by the stove, sipping the warm broth and praying for the man on fire, until Dad insists on guiding Sam back to his house. See you tomorrow, says Sam. I glare at him. I want to be the one sneaking around with Dad.